This short video is going to discuss the weapons effect, which is relevant to our chapter on aggression. So, what is the weapons effect? Research has found that when people see a weapon or simply see a picture of a weapon, they are likely to behave more violently or more aggressively than people who are not exposed to weapons. In other words, the mere presence of a weapon can elicit violence. Much of this research has focused on guns, which may be particularly relevant given the current political debates about gun rights. Let me tell you more about the research. And so in the study that started it all, participants were first angered by a Confederate, and this is somebody who works for the experimenters. And so the Confederate angered the participants, and then the participants were seated at a table that had a shotgun and a revolver on it, if you were in the experimental group. Or if you were in the control group, then you would be seated in front of badminton equipment. The items on the table were described as part of another experiment that the researcher had supposedly forgotten to put away. The participant was supposed to decide what level of electric shock to deliver to the Confederate who had angered them. And the electric shocks were used to measure aggression. So the more electric shock, the more aggression we would say the participant was displaying. The experimenter told participants to ignore the items on the table. However, participants who saw the guns were more aggressive than participants who saw the sports items. In another experiment, a Confederate drove a pickup truck and remained stalled at a stoplight for 12 seconds to see if the motorist behind him would honk the horn. And horn honking was considered the measure of aggression. The truck either had a gun mounted to the rear window or no gun mounted to the rear window. The motorists were more likely to honk their horns if the Confederate was driving a truck with a gun mounted to the rear window than if the Confederate was driving the same truck with no gun. The mere presence of a weapon automatically triggered that aggressive behavior. Research also shows that drivers with guns in their cars are more likely to drive aggressively. There have been several studies on the weapons effect, and a review of at least 56 studies shows that overall weapons do increase aggression. It's also been demonstrated that men get a testosterone rush just from handling guns, and this can easily be translated into an impulse toward aggressive behavior because testosterone is associated with aggression. In other words, just handling a gun makes men feel more powerful and aggressive. Of course, the weapons effect is most true for men who are not accustomed to thinking about guns as recreational objects. And so if somebody is a hunter and they're used to using hunting rifles and seeing hunting rifles, and it's more of a sport, then seeing a hunting rifle does not prime aggressive thoughts in hunters the same way it does in non-hunters. In summary, a large body of research provides evidence that exposure to weapons, such as guns, elicits aggressive behavior from people. The sight of hunting rifles does not seem to affect hunters in the same way it affects non-hunters. But when considering the general population, many who do not hunt, it's important to recognize how simply watching a movie or playing a video game that involves a weapon can affect people's tendency to behave aggressively.